I'd like to thank Mrs. LaRouche and the Schiller Institute for giving me the opportunity to come talk to you about what BRICS means for us. In the past few years, there was a lot of criticism against South Africa's inclusion in the BRIC organization. We're very proud to be the S in BRICS, and I would like to expand a little bit on that as well. South Africa's GDP is the 26th largest in the world, and our stock exchange is the 18th largest. We have 17 million economically active people, growing finance, real estate, and services sector making up 21% of the economy. South Africa is also the powerhouse of Africa, the world's largest producer of gold, platinum, and chromium. We can feed ourselves and we export food. We have an independent judiciary, a free press. We've held several free democratic elections, and we subscribe to the Constitution. We have a lot of challenges after the end of apartheid, and we are busy reversing some of the legacies of this system. So the S in BRICS represents not only South Africa, but the rest of the continent of Africa as well. And we hope to create opportunities for Africa in Africa. South Africa enjoys recognition as a dedicated and committed regional and global player in the UN, the African Union, the G77 in China, as well as the non-aligned movement. South Africa is also the only African representative in the G20. Therefore, we have no doubt about our membership in BRICS, and we do not see it in conflict with our stated aim of ensuring a better life for all. So, dear friends, a historic and seminal moment in the post-Bretton Woods era was reached when the BRICS finance ministers signed two founding agreements in the new development bank and a contingent reserve arrangement. South African President Jacob Zuma hailed the establishment of the new development bank as an everlasting legacy that will change the face of global economics and the face of all of the developing world for the better. We are still looking for the future to prove that right. As the leaders indicated at the fourth summit held in New Delhi, this bank is intended to strengthen cooperation among emerging economies and developing countries by joining pooling BRICS savings, notably foreign reserves estimated at about $4 trillion, as well as other private financing within the jurisdiction of these countries, to meet the development needs of countries with whom we as South Africa share common objectives. In the period leading up to the signing of these two important agreements, the African leadership was consulted. That's the African Union chairperson, the NEPAD, the New Partnership for African Development chairperson, as well as the AU Commission chairperson, who then wrote a letter to President Zuma to engage all the leaders of BRICS on the importance and significance of this initiative for the aspirations of the African continent. It can be recalled that when President Zuma, in response to this mandate, hosted the BRICS and African Leaders Retreat on occasion of the fifth summit we held, where this discussion centered on an infrastructure development agenda of Africa, tying in with the Silk Road project. Trade, cultural exchange, and the success of Africa is dependent on this. South Africa hosted the fifth BRICS summit in Durban during 2013. The following agreements were signed during the summit under the auspices of the BRICS Interbank Cooperation Mechanism. That is, the BRICS Multilateral Infrastructure Co-Financing Agreement and the BRICS Multilateral Cooperation and Co-Financing Agreement for Sustainable Development, as well as a new cooperation agreement on innovation that was signed at the summit. That shows you already how close we are pulling Africa and the BRICS countries. The process of negotiations to launch the bank and a currency agreement was concluded in the main during the South African chairmanship, due to the unprecedented commitment from our BRICS partners to bring these projects to early fruition. Considering the various political, financial, legal, and constitutional requirements that had to be navigated to come to these agreements, it is an indication of the political will of the leadership of BRICS. The leaders agreed, as contained in the Fortaleza Declaration, to provide an initial capital of $100 billion, of which the initial subscribed share would be $10 billion. That is $2 billion per member, to be paid over a period of 7 years, shared equally among the members. The first chair of the Board of Governance will be from the Russian Federation. The first president of the bank will be from India. The headquarters of the bank will be in Shanghai, and the Africa Regional Center will be in South Africa. The leaders again tasked the BRICS finance ministers in a run-up to the next summit to operationalize the headquarters and the regional office. and we are already on track. The impact of the decision to locate the headquarters in Shanghai, which is fast becoming the major global financial center, will assist to also provide a bank with resources to be established and implement projects as a matter of priority. The decision to concurrently open an Africa Regional Center also demonstrates the appreciation of the BRICS partners in a globally recognized sound financial credentials of South Africa. Also considering the need for this bank to interface with major clients. It will be closely linked to the headquarters in Shanghai to ensure that the work undertaken would be complementary, timeous in good time, and also executed to precision. It obviously brings the resources to closer proximity of the African clientele base, where it envisages the largest number of projects will emanate from. An important additional gain is that the regional office will pay particular attention to project preparation and implementation. It has been mentioned in the past 5 years that this is the decade of Africa, and we hope this will come to fruition as well. The new development bank is aimed at achieving the central desired objectives, namely to ensure that funding becomes available for priority infrastructure and sustainable development projects. The question whether the central objective could be met is now becoming a reality, so there's no question about it. As South Africa, we also have our own infrastructure plan, which requires funding beyond the means of our own fiscus, and this bank will certainly bring complementary funding to facilitate the implementation of such projects. It could be explained that the bank's leverage to achieve impact will be multiplied by the direct rand, real, ruble, rupee, and the renminbi investments made by its members. Our contributions to the bank are in fact investments and not expenditure, and it's expected that the bank will function according to sound commercial terms, also with a view to obtain desired credit ratings, and its assets will definitely grow and multiply over time, as it is the case with other similar multilateral development banks. South Africa is also party to various other financial institutions, whether it would be through the World Bank or African Development Bank. The contingent reserve arrangement, the CRA, will be a virtual foreign exchange reserve pool of $100 billion, modeled along the lines of the Chiang Mai Initiative Multilateralization Agreement. China will initially contribute $41 billion, Brazil, India, and Russia will contribute $18 billion, and South Africa $5 billion. It bears no immediate or direct financial implication because it will be activated when needed. The CRA will, of course, also provide additional and supplementary support and insurance for global financial stability in cases such as pressure on the balance of payment. It can be recalled at the 5th BRICS Summit that South Africa activated a provision made in the Sanaya Declaration for dialogue with other countries. So we engage with the African countries. We see the same thing happen in Brazil, where the Brazilian leader engaged the countries' leaders from Argentina, Bolivia, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Guinea, Paraguay, Peru, Suriname, Uruguay, and Venezuela. That happened on the 15th of July last year. These leaders then, like the African counterparts, warmly endorsed and welcomed the bank initiative and indicated that they already have project proposals ready for implementation. They also added that and this is quite important for us, that there has been many attempts since the Second World War to launch such an initiative, and the National Development Bank is the first tangible outcome in this regard. At the meeting of the BRICS trade ministers, among the various decisions taken to increase trade and investment within BRICS, the ministers highlighted potential for forging closer links between the micro, small, medium enterprises of BRICS. There's also mechanisms in place now to establish that. BRICS leaders also welcomed the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding and Cooperation among the BRICS the EXIM banks, that will improve the support environment for increasing trade opportunities amongst the BRICS nations and our neighbors. They direct the relevant authorities to explore avenues of cooperation in this regard. In the interaction between the BRICS leaders and the BRICS Business Council, President Rousseff of Brazil paid tribute to the outgoing chairperson of the council, Mr. Patrice Motsepe, one of our successful businessmen in South Africa, for the excellent work done under the council, under his stewardship. The leaders took note of the council's annual report that made substantial recommendations on scaling up business-to-business interaction, which we saw as a big drawback. In conclusion, these initiatives demonstrate the cohesion and maturity already reached in intra-BRICS cooperation following the first cycle of summits. We anticipate further real economic gains and major initiatives as we implement the Fortaleza Action Plan and start our preparations for the 7th BRICS Summit to be hosted in Ufa, Russia in 2015. BRICS is just the beginning of a new international economic order. It will be a gradual but steady progress. Although there are some critics in the newly established BRIC banks, the creation of the bank is significant for future international order for 3 reasons, as unpacked by my colleague Mr. Gioini at the Permanent Mission at the UN at the Schiller Institute meeting 2 weeks ago. Firstly, it demonstrates the viability and dynamics of BRICS, despite all the skepticism and criticism of recent years. Secondly, the BRICS Bank demonstrates China's global leadership. Given China's huge size and quick development, there is little doubt about China's role globally. Thirdly, the BRICS Bank is significant because it is a direct challenge to the global order led by the West. Many view the new BRICS Bank as a response to the failed reforms of the IMF and World Bank, as developing countries like China and India cannot increase their influence within the institutions. However, it should be kept in mind that BRICS Bank is not challenging the IMF or the international liberal economic order. China and India are perhaps the 2 greatest beneficiaries of open economic order, and thus BRICS Bank should try to push the IMF and the World Bank to be more open and transparent. Ultimately, the competition between the BRICS Bank and the IMF and the World Bank should be about efficiency rather than a struggle between a liberal and alternative economic philosophy. In this sense, there is a strong complementary relationship between the BRICS Bank, the IMF and the World Bank. That said, the West, the IMF and the World Bank should not view the BRICS Bank as a threat to the domination of the global economic order. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I just would like to say that South Africa is part of BRICS, and we are already starting to deliver for Africa. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, and I think we'll then just open up for discussion.